Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. Today is the 9th of March and Games Workshop have just released a new teaser for Warhammer Quest Cursed City. And unfortunately, they've done it again. They've taken an opportunity when they could have shared some really solid content about how the game was going to work and what we could expect. And instead of giving us actual facts, they've hinted at a few things and then said, ooh, look at the pretty stuff. And I do like looking at pretty stuff, but really wanted more solid information than we have got here. Today they have looked at the floor tiles that will make up the different maps that you will fight over during the game, and that's really interesting to me. I've seen all the miniatures and I'm ready to see some of the other contents of the game. And while they have showcased quite a few of the rooms and passages that we will see in the game, they haven't given us a lot of information to back up how those tiles are going to be used. I think the most interesting thing is they have shown us a complete map laid out. I don't know if that's actually going to be one of the maps we will see in the game or whether it's just been put together for illustration purposes, but it's really interesting to see that whole map laid out, and we can see that it does have that Shadows over Hammerhal style of individual rooms and corridors linked by what they are calling in this game gateways. The first thing that the article says is, anyone who's played Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress will know these boards are used to create the environments your heroes nobly fight their way through. And while it by no means confirms anything, it does suggest to me that we are going to be in the same sort of situation we were in Blackstone Fortress, where we lay out the map in advance and have a skirmish situation across the whole map. When they did the full reveal of the box contents, I predicted it would be more like Blackstone Fortress rather than having the map explored room by room, because things like the initiative track for enemies and the spawn points for enemies don't feel like they would work in an environment where you are gradually building the board. And comparing this game more to Blackstone Fortress and the way the boards are used to create the environments there, that does suggest to me that we will have a complete map on the table each time we go into a skirmish. We can also see from this map that it looks like there is a 4 square tile which represents the starting point for the heroes, and then there are several portals around the board where we can assume the monsters will be piling in from. The article then goes on to say that Warhammer Quest Cursed City has some of the most distinct and characterful boards the studio team have ever created. And that's just a sales pitch to me, because we've previously had the wonderfully demented corridors of Silver Tower, and we have had the dark, foreboding, tessellating corridors of the Blackstone Fortress, both of which have been fantastic environments to explore. The Cursed City does look excellent, but I think these new tiles are joining a catalogue of equally fascinating and fantastically illustrated tiles. The only other thing really of note that the article shares is that depending on your team's reason for entering Ulfenkarn, the environments for your mission will be different. You could end up exploring anything from a derelict mansion to the notorious Square of Bones. So it looks like we are getting a mixture of inside and outside locations. Certain tiles are representing buildings, other tiles are representing forecourts, passageways, alleyways. So the maps will represent moving in and out of different buildings as we scurry through the city. But that's it really in terms of actual information. We are shown a close-up of a few of the tiles. There is a peaceful garden, a blood-stained tavern, a blood-stained armory, or, to vary the theme a little bit, a blood-stained room with a pit of smashed coffins in it. We can see that all of these rooms have irregular shapes, much like the tiles from Shadows over Hammerhal, and also games like Dungeon Saga. However, every tile that we have seen so far has a regular grid pattern. There are no offset squares on any of these maps so far, which is something that happened a lot in Silver Tower and a little bit in Shadows over Hammerhal. And I think that is something interesting about the Warhammer Quest games so far. Each one has used space in a slightly different way. Silver Tower used squares for movement, but those squares were often offset. Shadows over Hammerhal was much more regimented in terms of the structure of the squares, but would occasionally have squares that narrowed down. Blackstone Fortress switched to hexes, and those hexes allowed several people to stand in them, so you had a completely different way of using the space in the environments. And now we are going back to squares and, if anything, a more regimented structure of squares than we saw in Shadows over Hammerhal, which again will dictate how the miniatures are moving on the board. But I guess that's it really. Really nice to see the artwork on the boards up close, and I love the look of the tiles. I wish we had some more information to back it up, and of course I also really wish we had a release date. Recently Games Workshop made an announcement that was quite vague about certain products being pushed back, and it feels to me like Cursed City was one of the products that has been pushed back, and these little teasers that they're doing now are somewhat treading water. They're not giving out a lot of information, but they're just giving out enough to keep us interested whilst they get their ducks in a row and they get those products into the warehouses and ready for distribution. Hopefully that will be happening relatively soon. But until then, I will keep checking out these updates as they come out and sharing any information that I feel is worth sharing on the channel. Until then, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you've really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.